a strange time for me to be doing this. I'm not actually random thoughts while scooping shit today. I'm actually done for the day because it's 7 o'clock at night and feels like midnight because it's black out there, winter solstice and all that, short days. But I was asked from a number of people to do them a little bit later, so here we are. It's a little bit later. I'll give this one a try. My random thoughts today were sort of thinking of I'm sitting in front of my computer looking at some entries and stuff for this week as well. Um, I'm a reader of the Pollock Report, which is a nice website on American racing and kind of everything, but I'm not particularly interested in American racing, but he does good work, and I am very interested in what the future of American racing is. And one of the topics that he had his editor do a really good series on this past week was the weird thing that goes on in America with these kill pen horse slaughter auctions that are very they only go on there, and then you see these posts on Facebook, save this horse, we have 12 hours before she ships to a horrible fate in Mexico or Canada with a bullet in her head at the slaughterhouse. And often that's not the case, and the horses actually don't move anywhere, and it's also all a big ploy to play on people's heartstrings, um, and make us all sound like horrible people who work with horses. And it's really not good, and it's a very American thing, and it's a scam. And as the rural population gets further and further away from anything having to do with horses and what a horse even looks like or smells like, they just have these ideas in their head that we have to save them. They're like pets, and yes, they shouldn't end up in these situations. It's not good. But they shouldn't end up in a situation where people are being scammed for money to bail them out either. And the horses end up who knows where. And a lot of times they end up just going back in the system and collecting bail again and again and again, and never falling into really safe hands anywhere. Which brings up the topic of what to do with a horse when it's done racing or whatever job it was meant to be doing. And people need to understand that a horse is not a pet, so to speak. A horse could be a pet. There are some people who keep them their whole lives, and that's nice, but that's not the majority of horses that are out there because they're working animals. They're bred and raised for a specific purpose, and like human beings, they have more than one purpose in their life. They can do 3 or 4 jobs in their life. They can live to be 20 or 30 or even more years old, and it's very unlikely that one person is going to own a horse for the entire lifetime of that animal. So there's a lot of hue and cry in America about how breeders should be responsible for what they put on the ground, and they should look after these horses for their whole lives, which is ridiculous because it's impossible. That's not how this works. And a lot of people are going to come into a particular horse's life through its lifetime, and they all have a responsibility. And at the end, somebody has to make the ultimate decision as to what's going to happen to that horse. And bailing them through these kill pen things in America is just, the series was really well done and kind of disturbing and just really bad publicity, and there aren't many thoroughbreds luckily in that pipeline. But in France, about 80%, maybe more, of racehorses are forbidden from entering the slaughter chain for human consumption anyway. All of our horses in Europe are microchipped. They all have a passport, and the vet and the trainer or owner or whoever early on has that horse will sign the passport and say this horse is not for human consumption, not meant for human consumption, because at some point in its life it's going to be treated with something that's humans should not be eating. So that keeps most thoroughbreds out of the slaughter pipeline anyway. And the slaughter pipeline in Europe, I don't even know where it's done anymore. I think maybe Belgium, I'm not sure. But horse meat demand by humans has been dropping precipitously. Not much of it out there. A lot of the horse meat that is sold for human consumption in French grocery stores comes from South America. So horse slaughter is not a huge issue for us here. Obviously, what you want to try to do is get your horse in the best hands possible and try to, when a horse leaves here, we try to place it in, in good hands, and somebody who's going to do something else with it. They're going to go trail riding. They're going to go show jumping. One of our old horses is a barrel racer now, and they love her, and she loves it. So it's a great new job for her. The only thing is that you can only do one step forward. So we put the horse where we think it's going to have a nice life. And then at some point, that person is going to decide, yeah, okay, now it's time for me to move this horse on and get a horse that's better for the job or whatever. Maybe it's time to retire. So we don't have control down the line once they leave us down the line. So we do the best we can. We do have an organization in France called Au-delà des pistes, which is a racehorse retirement program, which helps track the animals, because a lot of our owners and a lot of us would say, we always say when we move a horse on, we say, if it doesn't work out for you, if you don't like it, if something goes wrong, please let us know. We'll take it back. We'll try again. We'll find someone else. It almost never happens because you lose track of it down the line, and so they tend not to come back to us. But the bottom line is, a horse has jobs and has several owners through its life, and everybody needs to take a bit of responsibility, so that in the end, it can work out the way it's supposed to. And in the end, there is an end. They don't live forever. We're going to live longer than they do, even me probably, than a lot of my horses here. It's just they have a lifespan. It's shorter than ours. Just like a dog or a cat or any other domestic animal, we are responsible for putting them on this planet, and so we need to be responsible for killing them when the time comes. If you're not lucky enough domestic animals tend not to lay down and die quietly in their sleep. Unfortunately, that's not really what happens. But the fortunate part is that we can do something about that, and we can give them a better end than a lot of humans end up getting. So that's good. So that's one. It's a touchy topic, but people need to face it and not be afraid of taking responsibility from beginning to end, and doing what they can to make sure that the horse, through its life, ends up in the best possible hands. We do what we can for that. So that's the one random thought after reading that series on Pollock Report, which was a good series. It was well researched and it was well written, and it was something I've been curious about, because you see these things on Facebook all the time. Oh, save this horse, and the problem is that a lot of these people, there's so much money that could be used to actually do something good for horses, and that ends up not in scams and in these bail things and just in dealers' pockets. It's a shame. So these posts that pull on the heartstrings are kind of annoying. That's pretty much my random thought for today. Otherwise, just other stuff going on in racing, looking for some entries for our horses. We're going to Deauville tomorrow with Shop Till You Drop, who's going to run a claimer. And she was also entered in the handicap, but the claimer looks a little bit easier, although it is a kind of a full field. So we'll see how that goes. And we've got some entries, and we have a non-runner. I see one non-runner. That's good. So we have a field of 15 instead of 16. In wintertime now, our races are filling. These handicaps have 130 horses entered for 58 spots. This is something that Americans don't see very often, full fields. We don't have as much racing in winter, and it's on the fiber sand. And so, for example, we have Morhebe and L'Argent entered in a handicap in Deauville on Friday, and we have 103 entries. So, excuse me, I have 103 entries, and it's going to split. Morhebe for the moment is at the bottom of the second division. I'd prefer he'd be in the top of the third. These handicaps in France work. There's one race split into 4 or 5 divisions, and so there's 130 entries. Forfeits are Tuesday, right? Tuesday, yeah. Forfeits are Tuesday. Then start declarations are Wednesday, and then final declarations are Thursday. This is a Saturday race, and you don't know if you're on the border between 2 divisions. You're not really going to be sure until the end, the very end, where you end up, unless you're clearly in the middle of a division somewhere. At the moment, Morhebe is. Oh, the Deauville race, he's actually almost in the first division. Ooh, that's not good. Where is he? 28.5. So he's 21 on the list. 2 horses are likely to come out above him at least. He's likely to be in the first division if we stay in Deauville. He's also entered in Chantilly, where the forfeits were Saturday, yesterday, and start declarations are tomorrow. We have 85 left after forfeits. Morhib is sitting 42 on the list, and that means if 4 divisions run, we could get lucky and be at the top of the 3rd division, and that would be an entry we would keep. Then we would go to Chantilly instead. That would be a nice entry for him. That's 1,900 meters on the fiber sand, and it's a real lottery to see who's going to get in here, because on the entries there are all these little criteria that but next to some horse's name there's an N with a star. That means that the horse has run in some other country, and it needs to run 3 or 4 races to get rid of hi Roger. It needs to run 3 or 4 races, depending on how many races it's run in the other country, to get rid of that N star designation. That N star designation means that horse is the first to get eliminated when there's a full field, and it goes from the bottom up. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4 N stars. So those are the first to go. And then you see next to some horse's name an E with a number next to it. E3, E7, E4, E6. That means that horse has run that many days before this race. So E4 means it will have run 4 days before the race, and then E6 will be run in 6 races. And those are the first horses to be eliminated when they have to cut the field down. So with all that going on and those designations scattered through the list of horses, it's sometimes hard to figure out exactly where you're going to end up. Now, when you want to pick a jockey, that becomes a little bit more complicated too, because some jockeys will say, okay, well, I've got a mount in the 1st division, I'm free in the 2nd division, and I've got one in the 3rd division. So if you fall in the 2nd division, you can have this jockey. If not, so you end up having to wait until the last minute to get your jockey sorted out too, if you're kind of on the split between where this handicap is going to cut. And if you have a horse with an N star, which we do have one, we probably are not going to make the cut again, but I won't know that until tomorrow morning at 11:30, which is the cutoff for this particular race. So this is what I spend my afternoons doing, looking at the entries, trying to figure out where we can get these horses in. It's a bit different than entries, I think, in other countries, because we just have too many horses wanting to run in the wintertime. So we have those 2 going to Chantilly. Well, one more he will get in. He doesn't have any eliminating qualities next to his name, so he'll get into one of those 2 races. And then L'Argent will hopefully get into one, but I'm not sure. Looking doubtful. And then we have another 2-year-old claimer later in the week and a maiden to run. And Tim says, hi, Roger and Marcia. If you're watching out there, we have a like. If any of you out there have any questions, now would be a good time to ask them, because I am probably not going to hang around too much longer, because like I said, it's night, our work is done. It's raining outside again. It's been raining for the last 3 or 4 days. I'm really waiting for some sunny days to come. We've basically wound down our team to the end of the year here, and we're gonna have about 5 or 6 horses left in the yard that can race, and everybody else is either on vacation or moved on. Just a month ago, we had 18 horses in the yard, and most of them just weren't going to be any good. We had just the Greek horses were not, we had to get them qualified, and the owners weren't understanding that. And of course, so they moved the 2 that could probably do the job, they moved to other trainers. Fair enough, because, I wasn't doing my job, they said, because I have to run them in races they can't win to get them qualified for handicaps and to get their handicap mark down to a rating that they can work with here. And of course, they move the horse, and what does it do? Well, it wins, because, we did the work on that. But for the bettors out there, bet on the next Greek horse to run. He might win too, because the 2 that we had, 6 of them, 2 were actually decent, and those 2 are not with another trainer. So, but it's all good, because we want to just keep the horses for our loyal owners that we know, and that we know can do something. So just looking at my screen here, I'm not sure if you can see. I'm going to turn this around. This is what we are looking at on the France Gallo site when we're looking at where we're entering our horses, and it's all done online, which is nice. You can just click on your horse and you can click on the race you want to enter in and narrow it down that way. And then the program book actually looks like this, and it comes out 2 months at a time. And if it's in here, it races. So there's none of this, writing a special race, or the only races they add. If it's in here, it races. What they do tend to do in these big handicaps is that, especially in the wintertime, they may add a race. They may add one more race. Like at this race, for example, in Chantilly on the 26th, we have 1, 2, 3, we have 4 divisions already carded, and we can ask for a fifth if there's enough horses to fill a fifth, and we might get it depending on the humor of France Gallo. But this is, yes, and it is also online if anybody wants to look it up. There's charts, and you can play around with it and find the races online as well. Some of our owners like to do that. And then they say, why aren't we in this race? But they sometimes don't see all the conditions of a particular race. So they say, why are we not in this race? And I'm like, well, that's because that race is for fillies and yours is a colt. And things like that. But no, it's a pretty good system. And the deadline, what happens is that since it's computerized, it's online, the deadline for an entry will be 10:30, and at 10:30, if you haven't gotten in, it cuts off automatically. So you can't sneak in under the deadline or anything like that. It's all electronic, so that's good. And that's what we spend. And I'm looking at claiming horses, because there may be a horse that we want to buy coming up. Well, we're looking maybe to claim a horse or two. And on the France Gallo website, there's a nifty little tab called Horses to Claim, or Chevaux Réclamés. And today there was one in Martinique. Don't think we'll be shopping there. Tomorrow in Deauville, we have 3 claiming races. We're running one of them with Shop Till You Drop. But I don't think there's much for us to think about buying tomorrow. Looking at what's in there. There's a 2-year-old claiming race, a 3-year-old claiming race, and an older horse claiming race. And they're active, and now we can claim online, which means that claiming in France is done after the race is over. And after the race is over, the horses walk around for 20 minutes or so, and you have that much time to put in your bid. So you can see how the horse ran, you can see how it comes back off the track, you can see how it's walking out, cooling out, and then you decide, you know ahead of time what you're sort of looking at anyway, but then you have that 20-minute window to get your bulletin in. And before, you had to be at the race course to do this, and it's a real poker game, because you're sort of watching who's around the claiming box, and if you want a horse, you have to figure out how high you're going to have to bid to get it. It's not like in America where a horse is in for 12,000, everybody puts in their slip and then they shake for it or draw lots or however it is they do it. Here, a claiming price is the base price in the silent auction that happens after the race. So if the horse is in for 12,000 euros, you might have to pay 18 or 20 to get it. 12,000 is the base price, and you fill the slip out and you put in, what you think that horse is worth or what you think you can pay for it. And at the end of the 20-minute deadline, they'll open the box and read out the bids, and the highest bid takes the horse home. Now, bidders can also claim online, which is, it's good, because I know, you don't have to run around. I've had a situation before where I wanted to claim a horse, and you have to find somebody to put the slip in for you if you can't be there yourself. And it's kind of a pain in the ass. So the fact that you can do it online is nice. We just lost a horse like that, which was like, it was at the very first time they allowed claiming online, and a horse was in for 14. We liked it a lot. It was second that day, I think. And I put in 2 slips, actually. I put in 16.5, and then I saw that it was going to be kind of active, and we wanted the horse. So we put in 17.01, and then we should have gone to 18, and we were thinking about it, but we only had 30 seconds left. The clock was winding down, and we put the slip in and didn't get the 18,000 slip in time. And at the race course, I had the highest bid for the horse, but then they were like, okay, and we have one online bid, and the one online bid was 700 euros more than our bid. So we didn't get that horse, which is a shame, because I really liked her. But it is a good thing, and it will make the claiming market even more interesting. The thing about it that's a little bit, when you're at the race course, you can watch what's going on, and if there are people can claim online now, you have no idea who might be looking or what they, and what, yet they don't know what's going on at the race course either, though. So there is that. But it's interesting. It adds another aspect to the claiming game here. And when they open the bids and they start reading out those bids, and you really want that horse, you're like, I hope I put in the right price. And the opposite to that, of course, is if you put in like the horse is in for 12, you put in 15 because you liked it and you think you're going to have to pay that, and you find out you're the only bid. You're like, shit, could have got it for 12, but you don't know that. And so it's a game. It's a claiming game. That's how it works. But there's some coming up. We'll see if we can find another one we like. There were 2 I liked last week that we didn't bid on. Probably should have, but anyway, I'm gonna probably look at those more closely maybe right now. So when I end this live, which is now. So anybody out there with any questions? Otherwise, I'm gonna say thank you for watching, and we will try to come up with some sort of Sunday live next week as well. And don't forget to like the channel and subscribe, please, and keep watching all those shorts. Questions? No? Okay. Good night, guys.